Hello and welcome again to the Writer Review. This is Eric Carrot Writer, and this week we're going to be taking a look back at the 1994 family comedy movie titled Richie Rich. Of course, Richie Rich is based off of the old Harvey Toon comics, which came out in the 1940s, and and then eventually in the 80s, it was actually launched into a TV series. I remember it was the Richie Rich Scooby Doo Hour, which featured some cartoon shorts starring Richie Rich and some cartoon shorts starring everyone's favorite Great Dane, Scooby Doo. Okay, so with all that said and done, the runtime of this movie is 1 hour and 36 minutes long. It is directed by Donald Petrie. The script was written by Tom S. Parker and Jim Genuine. The script was done by Neil Tolkien. It is produced by Joel Silver and John Davis. It is composed by Alan Silvestri, the cinematography by Don Burgess, and it was edited by Malcolm Campbell. And the stars of the movie are Macaulay Culkin in what appeared to be his last kids movie that he starred in. I know he took a very long hiatus from the movie scenes because of legal troubles involving the mishandling of his money and his finances by his parents. He also kind of took a bit of a downward spiral. In fact, the last movie that he was in after Richie Rich was in 2003. He took a long hiatus. He didn't return to the movie scenes until 2003. Of course, he wasn't doing kids movies anymore because he was no longer a kid. But even many people have often uh, frowned upon the casting choice of Macaulay Culkin being cast as Richie Rich, although I tend to beg to differ. The other stars in the movie include his younger brother Rory Culkin as a younger version of Richie Rich, and Peter Lampley as Baby Richie. Also joining the cast includes John Laroquette, Edward Hermann, Christine Ebersole, Jonathan Hyde, Mike McShane, Chelsie Ross, Mariangela Pino, Stephi Lineberg, Michael Maccarone. Don't laugh. That's his name, but it's not spelt like in the pasta-shaped noodle with the tubes. No, his name is spelled differently, but it's still pronounced Maccarone. So you can stick that in your hat. Alright. Joining the cast includes Jonathan Hyde, Mike McShane, Chelsie Ross. I already mentioned those names. Sorry about that. Okay, we got Joel Robinson, Jonathan Hilario. We also got some cameo appearances from some well-known celebrities, including baseball legend Reggie Jackson. We have Matt DeCaro. We also have supermodel Claudia Schiffer. Sorry about that. Claudia Schiffer. Yeah, she's in it. She's, I think, his yoga trainer or his personal fitness trainer. Former model turned fitness trainer, Claudia Schiffer. We also have Ben Stein, who's supposed to be his economics teacher, which kind of makes sense. Yes, Mr. Monotone voice. You know, I'm calling about your son Rover. You better send money, his ski trips are over. With gentle eyes, we have clear eyes, which really helps cure you from some itchy, watery eyes and prevents you from getting red eyes. Wow. Okay, that's my Ben Stein impersonation. Also, we have Sean A. Tate, Joel Ellegant, Justin Zaremby, and Eddie Bo Smith. That's a cool name, actually. Alrighty. Well, so many people have been down on Macaulay Culkin after the success of Home Alone 2 Lost in New York. And who could blame you? Post Home Alone 2, his movies have really gone down the shitter. I mean, you had The Good Son, which was fucking crap, if you ask me. I mean, it's pretty much Kevin McAllister's evil doppelganger, who's not working, who's not taking down the Wet Bandits, but working for the Wet Bandits. Okay, that didn't happen, but he might as well. Imagine if Kevin McAllister actually had an evil doppelganger who was working side by side with the Wet Bandits. Kevin McAllister would have been a fucking dead corpse before his family would come home to rescue him. Yeah. Oh, it's Macaulay Culkin and he's evil. Yeah. Yeah. And then you get other bullshit movies like Getting Even with Dad, where he's fucking annoying with that stupid looking 80s mullet and dancing around to Why Do You Love Me? Okay. Ugh. And then you got the Nutcracker, which, if you ever show me that movie again, I will crack some nuts. And I wasn't stuttering either. And then we got the Page Master. Ugh! Take a pillow and suffocate me. You can even call Chris Benoit from his grave to do the deed. Okay, maybe I shouldn't be telling jokes about that because that's a tragedy. Sure, 1993 and 1994, to put it roughly, has been kind of rough on young Culkin with these box office bombs. And then the personal issues relating to his family and the financial fiascos that followed. And no place where he's going to get employment because by now he's box office poison. He's become a child star has-been. So get in line with Haley Joel Osment, Corey Feldman, and Danny Bonaducci. Because you're in line, Mackie. But there was little doubt. There was also little doubt that he would evolve into a teen star. Do you think he could have been a teen star? Some people I often ask myself, okay, so he's not going to do little kiddie movies anymore. Because he's not a kid anymore, he's a teenager. But do you think he would have made the transition from a kid star to a teen star? I mean, don't look at John Hughes. He's not doing any more teen dramas anymore. Well, he's dead, but he was alive in 94. But he wasn't doing those kind of stuff anymore. While the CW was churning out a lot of these teen dramas, started off with Beverly Hills 902.0 and moved over to like Melrose Place, Party of Five, Time of Your Life, Seventh Heaven, Charmed, Dawson's Creek, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Yeah. He probably could have went into that direction, but he didn't want to. He just kind of got fed up with the bullshit in Hollywood. He got fed up with his parents controlling his money. And he just said to himself, what the fuck is this all about? Fuck it. I'm taking my bags and I'm leaving Hollywood. I'll see you in the funny papers. But I just want to tell you that 1994 was not all entirely bad. Because at least he ended his child star career with one more send off by starring as the Harvey Comics icon Richie Rich. And though the story being told to us is an old tale of a rich kid who has everything you could possibly ask for, but he's still not happy because there is one thing in life that means more to him than fame and wealth, and that is friendship. Regardless of race, gender, orientation, or even class, or physical appearance, or cognitive deprived outlook, or a cognitive deprived outlook. I'm trying to be politically correct as possible. If I'm not raising up to your expectations, then fuck you. Friendship is the only thing that will fulfill his life. But what stands out is that it takes an old school plot and tries to add original nuances to the mixture to add something new to the narrative. It also pays off that we have performers using their wit and charm to keep the story flowing nicely. It's a charming little tale. Now I know what people are saying. Wasn't he a little bit too old to be playing an 8-year-old rich kid? Well, if you ever actually watched the old 80s Richie Rich Scooby Doo Hour, Richie Rich is not being played by an 8-year-old. He's actually kind of more like early to mid teens. He's like playing something like 12, 13-year-old. And that's suitable. I mean, in 1994, he was about 13 years old, so I think he played his role accordingly. Sure, he was still trying to keep that little boy image in him, but we could simply see that he's getting a little bit taller, and we also see that he is starting to evolve more into a teenager and less into a child. And maybe people might have been a little bit misconstrued that he might have been miscast to play a young fellow like Richie Rich. It's very much up in the air, so to speak. Richie Rich is an indicator that the duds that Culkin starred in, and boy, they were sure duds, were really actually no fault of his own. Maybe he just made bad decisions. Or maybe he just wanted to take his. He maybe just wanted to break typecast and wanted to do different things. Maybe that's why he wanted to be this evil kid in The Good Son. And then he ends up with lighthearted fluff like the Nutcracker getting even with Dad and the Page Master. And I think Macaulay Culkin is, if given the right script, the right characters, and a movie that he feels comfortable in, you'll see he's really not that bad of a performer. Everyone's shit-faced on him after Home Alone 2 because everybody thought he was going to be Kevin McAllister forever. Well, wake up, folks. He can't be Kevin McAllister forever. Sooner or later, he has to grow up, get a little bit taller, have his voice lowered, deeper. I don't know if he actually ever reached baritone level. I think he's a tenor, but that's beside the point. I don't think I want to see Kevin McAllister as a 20-year-old. or a 30-year-old, or I believe he's 43 years old now as we speak. He's a little too old to be playing cat and mouse games with a bunch of bumbling burglars. And even Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern are very long in the face. Joe Pesci is 80 years old and Daniel Stern is 70. They're also a little bit too old to be playing these kind of roles too. And all the reboots and remakes will not mean shit. Come up with new ideas, Hollywood. Anyway, I'm going off tangents here. So when he left the child actor life, he would end it with a bang. And that he did. In my opinion. There are people who did not like Richie Rich. But you know what? I'm not going to hold any discriminations against, to each their own. But I think this movie was misunderstood. Sure, the signs of a teenager were creeping up, from acne problems to discovering that his fitness instructor, Claudia Schiffer, is not just a teacher, but he sees assets about her that will make him sweat before the session is underway. Oh, he's probably sweating in places where he shouldn't be sweating. I am not going to say it. I'm trying to run a clean show, folks. So, for those not familiar with the Richie Rich lore, Richie is the wealthiest kid in the world. He has everything a kid could ask for. And maybe he's got everything he never asked for, but was just given to him. Hell, he even has in his own house his own personal McDonald's. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. With a bunch of underpaid staff. Sure. Get your kids over to my own personal McDonald's, where you'll have Big Macs galore, and you wonder why child obesity is on the rise. Just kidding. McDonald's burgers should be just a once a month thing, folks. Otherwise, it's not going to be a treat. It's going to become an obsession. And that would be dangerous. Hey, I love a good burger a month too. But keep it minimal. That's all I'm asking. Otherwise, it's not a guilty pleasure. It's a dangerous obsession. So what makes this film also relieving is that Richie is not some snobby, spoiled, self-absorbed little snot like you see in many movies, which has become a fucking tired cliche. He's not speaking with his nose in the air. No. He's not some bratty little tyke who's crying because daddy won't get him a new Mercedes. His parents, Richard and Regina, played by Edward Hermann and Christine Ebersole, also seem to come across as well-rounded citizens who never exploit or debunk anyone who isn't at their level. That's because nobody's at their level. They're the creme de la creme. They have their own personal Mount Rushmore, filled with priceless stuff that's not worth fame or gold. This is where things start to get interesting, which I will explain it in a bit. Jonathan Hyde plays Richie's butler valet, who goes by the name of Herbert Cadbury, who seems not like the stereotypical butler, like, your drink, sir? Would you like some Chardonnay? I will have it ready for you, master. I will be back in about 5 minutes. Tow tow. No, he's not like that at all. In fact, he's practically one of the coolest butlers ever. He kind of has more like a big brother, almost like a friendly uncle type to Richie, while still remaining to keep his posh demeanor intact. That's what I call brilliant acting. So, Rich Industries is one of the most successful conglomerates in the world and can manufacture just about anything the human race desires and much, much more. In the basement of the Rich family's estate is the leading inventor by the name of Professor Keenbean, played by Michael McShane. Now, in the old Scooby Doo cartoons, Professor Keenbean is kind of like a tall, lanky, eccentric, neurotic scientist. Here, Mike McShane is kind of like more or less playing kind of more, a little more rotund, anxious, and a bit of a hyperactive type of scientist. And he spends his time in the lab working on new inventions and gadgets, while also serving as Richie's teacher in math and sciences. Richie definitely truly has a ball when visiting this wacky professor. So he still keeps that wackiness level. But there is one question I want to know. There is an absentee in this movie that I would have really liked to have seen. Where the living fuck is Irona? You remember Irona? Ginger hair. She was like a cyborg maid who also served as Richie's personal maid, who also was like a very protective, almost like a second mother to Richie. I used to love Irona. She had this great level of humor and sass while also still showing a lot of care and compassion to Richie, especially when his parents were a no show. I loved Irona, and it's a shame that she wasn't in this movie. What happened? Did she stand out in the rain for so long that she rusted? She was a little late on her oil job? What happened? She malfunctioned and Professor Keenbean couldn't put her back? Okay, I'm cracking jokes, but I just missed Irona's absence. She was actually cool. I liked her. So Richie may have everything a kid could ask for, but there is one thing he wants that doesn't cost a nickel or a dime. Yes, yes, that's right, Dollar. He needs a friend. No, Dollar, I mean an actual friend. I mean, a human. He still loves you, Dollar, don't worry. But he would like someone also of his own species. Oh, come on, Dollar, you can come and join them too. Yeah. But you see, the thing is that he wants to interact and mingle with kids his own age. Playing baseball in a back lot with inner city kids from working class neighborhoods. To getting dirty and doing fun stuff like ride roller coasters and pig out on ice cream sodas. Oh, yes, he has his own personal McDonald's, but who's he gonna share it with? Besides you, Dollar. So, one day, as his father was to give a presentation of a new factory opening, Richie tries to get friendly with the Sandlot baseball kids. But they reject him because, oh, he's so rich. Why would he want to waste his time with us lowlifes? Meanwhile, Cadbury escorts Richie on the corporate helicopter. Eventually, they would later join him, being that he is a naturally gifted baseball pitcher, and invites them into his house. And we're all amazed his house has absolutely everything a person could want. Oh, did I also mention he has his own McDonald's? That's fucking cool. But I digress. Kids, once a month, try to stay healthy and eat balanced foods. Once a month you can have a McDonald's. Rest of the time, eh, I don't want anybody out there to start talking about an obesity epidemic. Okay? Keep it minimal. So, like all the fairy type stories, I mean, in order for this movie to work, we gotta have a villain. Yes, a cold and calculated one. Trying to stir the pot to bring our heroes down so they could grab their hands on the profit. Money, valuables, you name it. All for their own greedy, selfish purposes. Well, you asked for it. You asked for it. You got it. Introducing ourselves to Lawrence Van Doe, played by John Laroquette, one of Rich Industries' top executives. But his main goal is to take over the Rich Empire. And what kind of evil schemes he has? Well, apparently, not only is he a top executive, he also appears to be a deranged terrorist. Oh, on the rich family's personal helicopter, he places a package bomb on their private plane in hopes to kill the entire rich family so that he could be the new CEO of the company and take possession of all the rich's belongings, which many claim to be located inside their own personal Mount Rushmore. And his plan looked almost successful, except for one big problem. Richie was not on the plane. And according to Cadbury, Richie actually has 51% of Rich Industries stock. Which means if his parents go, he has it all. Therefore, with his parents no showing, Richie is now the interim CEO of Rich Industries. Yep, he's 13 years old, he's an entrepreneur, and he now runs one of the richest companies in the entire world. He's got the world in the palm of his hands, albeit a little bit smaller than mine. And also, Richard and Regina's plane may have exploded, but just to keep this as a family film, they're not dead. But they're actually stranded in the ocean and are hanging on in a lifeboat, hoping a ship would come by to rescue them. And although cell phones were around, but very few people had them, you would think that Mr. and Mrs. Rich should have had one of those. Or maybe they did, but I don't think that survived. A lot of her lingerie and a lot of his clothes survived, although they're all floating in the ocean. Oh, but don't worry. They're clever, they're resourceful, and they'll find a way back. And don't worry, Mr. Van Gogh will not be successful. Spoiler alert, anyone? Because in the end, when all is said and done, Van Gogh is going to go. I want it to run. It seems that the kids tend to outsmart the adults in the world of business, and running a company as with Richie in charge, he seems to just have a natural knack for it. And Rich Industries is actually more successful than it ever was before. Yeah, in family comedies, precocious kids tend to always be 10 times smarter than the adults. In movies that star kids, kids will always be smarter than adults. Think about that, all you adults out there who are watching. I'm not giving away spoilers, it's just a fact. Take this from a guy who spent all his life watching movies. Only except for it's been about 30 years since I've actually watched a movie and dissected into them. But this doesn't stop Richie from enjoying his life as a kid, hanging out with his new friends, and doing stuff we all enjoy, or once enjoyed as a kid. And even though Richard and Regina are floating away on their lifeboat, they still make the best of their time cracking one-liners about running out of Perrier and caviar and only having champagne to consume. Yeah, in a desperate times like this, it's time to pull out the bubbly. I loved it when Chris Jericho said that when he won the inaugural AEW Heavyweight Champion. Time to pull out the bubbly. that catchphrase has me cracking up. So even though, yeah, the film lacks originality, there is still plenty to enjoy thanks to the amazing direction from Donald Petrie, and the performers rely on charm, wit, and humor to get by in this movie. Never once do the scenes meander or change the mood of the film. It remains colorful and stylistic in its entirety. There are a few things too also I want to mention. Aside from the absence of Arona, why did they make the character of Wendy portrayed as a poor inner city kid? No, wait, her name wasn't Wendy. I'm thinking Casper the Friendly Ghost. No, her name was Gloria. Yeah, that was her name. Why did I think? What was I thinking? Wendy. I must have been thinking of the other Harvey Toon character of Casper the Friendly Ghost, and his girlfriend was Wendy the Good Witch. Anyhow, no, her name was Gloria. Why did they make Gloria poor? Why did they make her sort of a tomboyish? When in the movie, Gloria, well, in the TV series, Gloria was just as wealthy as Richie. Also, I don't know if the character of Reginald or Reggie was in this movie. I know his name was Reggie Van Doe or Reginald Van Doe, who was supposed to be kind of like a main antagonist in the Richie Rich Scooby Doo Hour, the old Hanna-Barbera cartoons in the 80s. He was probably only seen once. The big bad in this movie was his father, Lawrence. Reginald pretty much was in one scene and he was gone. It was Lawrence who was the main villain. Yeah, he also had a few henchmen too. And the climax of the movie also sees them in pretty much, the kids collaborating, and they do this kooky Home Alone bullshit like you would see, like it was featured there in that movie. Kids putting up booby traps. And once again, we have Home Alone bullshit. Yeah, the bad guy is getting outsmarted by these little kids. And they're outsmarted too. So we still get a bit of that Home Alone feeling too in this movie. Where the bad guys who are supposed to be the superior intelligence find themselves being outsmarted by these little punks. Sorry, I didn't mean to bring this meant to say punks per se, but I'm just cracking jokes. I was a little punk myself. Everything about this movie really truly had a good feel atmosphere to it. Sure, it's more aimed towards the younger audience, and even the darker scenes like the plane bombing, which is kind of dark for a family movie, but at least, hey, nobody dies. Let's keep that. Let's At least we had that. Nobody dies. And the threatening corporate takeover schemes, there is still an eternal level of sunniness that makes everything so fun to watch. Because we're pretty much seeing Home Alone traps. I mean, everybody was into the Home Alone craze of kids setting up booby traps to outsmart their adversaries. All just for the sake of good. We saw that in Problem Child. We saw that in Dennis the Menace. Baby's Day Out. We saw that in the 101 Dalmatians. We've seen adults getting pummeled and outsmarted by these little smartasses. And yeah, though it may not be original, it has that predictable ending a la Home Alone. It's still something to relax and enjoy. And if Macaulay Culkin wants to do one last Home Alone booby trap scheme to outsmart the villains, particularly Lawrence Van Doe, and send him packing, it's something to relax and enjoy. And it's a good movie to watch when you're bored or down in the dumps. It's not one of Macaulay Culkin's greatest movies he's ever made, but, if this is his way to send him off from his child movies and doing one more thing before he takes his long 9-year hiatus, I'll give him a salute. Thank you for entertaining us. I'm sorry that you had a bad year with some horrible clunkers. And that's that. It was truly more fun than what others thought it was. If he was going to go down, he was going to go down swinging. And I personally think he did a phenomenal job at that. So therefore, when all is said and done, if I was to give this movie a scale out of 10, I would give Richie Rich from 1994 an 8 out of 10. So I guess this ends my writer review. Thank you all for listening in. If you wish to subscribe to my YouTube channel, please feel free to do so. If you wish to leave a comment, go right ahead. But just remember the 3 simple rules: be kind, be courteous, and please refrain from any rude comments. And I will be back again with another movie review. So until next time, this is Eric Carrot Writer saying, keep watching those movies, and I'll see you around. Goodbye.